Bookcase and Coffee presents Buzzing About Romance, a quick shot of romance.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Buzzing About Romance, a quick shot of romance. And on this episode of A Quick Shot of Romance, I am joined by podcast contributor Carolina, and we are reviewing Beauty and the Baller by Ilsa Madden-Mills. Welcome back to the podcast, Carolina.
Thanks, Leah. It's good to be back.
Okay, you want to read the synopsis from Goodreads?
Yes. An NFL quarterback turned small town coach gets sacked by the Texas beauty queen in this swoony, passionate romance from Wall Street Journal bestselling author Ilsa Madden-Mills. Gorgeous, talented, and brilliant NFL quarterback Ronan Smith has the world at his hands. But after losing his career and his fiancée in a car accident, he falls into a pit of grief and bad choices. When a mysterious girl shows up to his party, he feels drawn to her and makes her his for one night. Former beauty queen Nova Morgan is on a mission. Scantily clad as a princess from a galaxy far, far away, she sneaks into a high-profile party to capture the attention of her favorite quarterback. But her hopes are crashed after an awful one-night stand. Fast forward 2 years, broke and desperate, Nova returns home to Bluebell, Texas, where, by a comic twist of fate, her brooding neighbor is none other than Rowan, the shiny new football coach everyone adores, but he has no idea who she is. The Booster Club keeps shoving women at Rowan to keep him in town. His solution? He proposes fake dating to Nova, but things heat up for real under these Friday night lights when he realizes she's the one who slipped away. Has this jaded beauty found her forever baller, or will his past keep them apart?
Okay, so this releases March 29th, 2022. So it is a brand spanking new book. So we are going to be really, really careful about spoiling anything, which it's going to be kind of
really hard
because there's some things that I want to talk about but they would be spoily and I don't want to do that. But so the tropes for this are one night stand, small town, football, fake relationship. Now the put out percentage is 5%, but then it does not pop again for like a long time. So just, if you like an early pop and a lot of pop, you just have to be patient because it pops and then there's a gap and then it pops a lot.
And all the pops are really good.
And all the pops are very good. Okay, so let's talk about Novus.
I do want to say though, because it mentions in the synopsis that he lost his fiancée in a car accident and it deals with that. There's a little bit of grief over that, but it's not consuming in the book. So I wouldn't necessarily, like, you need to be aware of it. And if it's an issue for you, then stay away, but it does not consume the book in any way, shape, or form. So I really wouldn't put a content warning on it, but I just want to say
Just
that.
Put it out there.
If people are concerned about it.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about Nova. So Nova is moving home after living in New York City for years because her mom has passed away and she is moving home to Texas to raise her little sister. And her life is kind of in a spiral.
Her life is in a spiral. Her younger sister is 15 years old, still in high school. She does have high functioning autism, so she does need some support and guidance. And they really have a great relationship. I liked, her younger sister really adores Nova. So I think it's really kind of sweet.
I agree. And I think, and it's one of those situations where like there's a pretty decent age gap between the two of them. I think it's elite because Nova is like 28 or 29.
Yeah, I think that's about right.
Like, so she is almost,
there's a 14, I think it was 14 years.
Yes. So there's a decent sized age gap between the two of them. But when the two of them are on the page together, you can feel and see, and Ilsa Madden-Mills writes their relationship so perfectly. Like, yes, Sabine, yes, she is a very high functioning, autistic kid, and she is super intelligent, but she has this way about writing these characters that you can feel how much they truly care for each other and have that sisterly bond, even though they have lived apart and there is such a big gap between them age-wise.
Yeah, I would 100% agree. And they even had their like sibling squabbles, even
Mhm.
as Nova was trying to be the adult, the guardian. It's like, no. And her sister would push back. When's later? Some of that's coming from her autism like
Uh-huh.
needs and part of it is her sister trying to protect her.
Well, and that was something too, like anytime that Nova would say something like vague, like her sister needed like a concrete answer, like she needed a push. And I think that really helped Nova in the sense too, because like Nova had a boyfriend when she was in New York and he cheated on her. And that was like part of like coming home. I think she either like got laid off or lost her job somehow or quit. I cannot remember specifically that situation. But so everything is kind of like up in the air, and her mom passing away and like all of this upheaval like in New York, it just she's kind of lost. And I feel like her sister like really grounds her in a way she wasn't expecting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it was also there were just a lot of cute moments in it. I mean, there were times where Sabine does her hair, they watch YouTube videos and she does, her makeup or does her hairstyles. So, they have a good relationship. They look out for each other.
Okay, so let's talk about Ronan for a little bit. So when we first meet him in the first like few chapters of the book, or the first few pages of the book, like he's in a spiral. It has been about a year. Like he was in a car accident. His fiancée passed away. He got hurt, so he has not played. He's been rehabbing and he's been drinking a decent amount, and he is just kind of wallowing in like life chaos. And he looks across the room and he sees Princess Leia.
Yes. He sees a woman who's almost being escorted out by security in Princess Leia in the bikini, the gold bikini, the classic, like the hair, everything. And it makes mention that it's actually a really good costume version of it, really high-end quality of it. And he has a thing for Star Wars, which is like,
well, and there's little like things that play out in the story, which is something we are not going to talk about. But he does, in like this Princess Leia thing, it shows up later.
It shows up, and there's a lot of Star Wars references. But they're also very like high level. So if you never watched the movie, but you're aware of Star Wars and you know who the characters are, you'll follow along. It's not like you have to be totally into that fandom to get it, but you have more appreciation for it.
I know, it totally like my geek love and Star Wars part was like, this book is for me.
There was moments because Nova doesn't get it. She hasn't watched the movies.
Because she is not the Star Wars geek.
She knows who the characters are, and she just messes things up left and right. And he gets beside himself. It's so funny.
But so
sorry.
No, that's fine. I mean, I'm fine with the tangent. But so like they meet, like
he's captivated by her.
Yes. And then they go to his hotel room. And things happen.
And it doesn't end well. They actually have a really great one night.
But it does not end well.
And we're just going to leave it at that.
Yes, because that is something you have to read. But in that moment, like he wakes up the next morning, like realizes like what happened. And he's like, it's like the turning point for him in a way, because it's like a light switch. He kind of comes out of the fog a little bit. Is how I would describe it. Yeah, I mean, he's definitely still struggling in the sense for like he has decided like relationships are not for him anymore. Like he's just gonna like kind of have flings and do his thing. And he moves to Texas and becomes a high school coach, but he doesn't have plans to stay there. Like he's great with these kids though. So good with these kids, and like the football team as a whole are a really great like background cast, and like the way he speaks to his players and like the motivation he gives them, and is like you don't make these dumb choices because they will affect later.
Yeah, he is somebody who he has a master plan to say, I'm only taking 1-year contracts because I really want to, coach pro. I want to be at the pro level. And which kind of leads to, flash forward to the 2 years later after the one night stand, and he's at his house. There's a party going on because the boosters are trying to keep him. So they figure if they keep throwing women at him and one sticks, they will keep him for their football team.
He'll like stay because he's marrying a local girl.
Yeah.
And so, but this is how they re-meet, because Nova has just gotten home from New York, like within like recently. And so like there's this giant party going on next door or across the street.
Yep. Across the street.
And somebody has backed into like these like emotionally like attached flowers of hers, which I'm not going to tell you about the flowers aside from there's emotional attachment to it, which I thought was
They're
sweet and adorable.
bushes.
Well, but why? Like,
yes,
I just love that. But so she like storms over in like a huff because this stupid girl like has run over her roses, and then she sees him and she's like, oh no.
She stops in her tracks, but then she's a spitfire and she doesn't hold back. And they realize, she realizes he does not recognize her.
No, he does not. But that doesn't last super long, because there are things like that they talk about that, and like as like they talk and have a conversation, and she throws some like truth bombs at him about like how stupid he's being in that moment, and like little things like, so he starts remembering more. And so he calls his best friend, who is Tuck, and Tuck was on his football team in New York with him. And he finds out some information about exactly how things went down, but we can't say because we don't want to spoil it for you. But just know, like, Tuck is,
you know what, there's a lot of things that happen in this book that people really rally around him and her that help influence everything, like, and help move things along, which is super cute. Like,
well, and so like they meet, like things happen, and then he decides like she's gonna help me keep all of these like crazy people like away. So they go down the fake relationship hole, which like that's never a good
trouble. That's always
trouble. Like things are gonna happen, feelings are gonna be had, and then stupid decisions are gonna be made.
And throughout this, she's actually looking for a job. And one of the boosters. Old women, one of the boosters in the neighborhood says, oh, go to the high school because there's a position open. And she ends up getting a job at the high school that's part-time an English teacher, which she doesn't know English. She has to, like, she wasn't an English major, she was an art major. And so it's part-time English teacher and then part-time the personal assistant to coach.
Well, and then in that though, like she was in a relationship with a guy when they were in high school, and like they had all these plans and things happened. I don't want to spoil that because it plays a big part into the story too, but he is a teacher at the school and a baseball coach, I think. And that also plays a part.
Basketball.
Okay. But that also like ties into this whole story as well.
I thought it was funny because there's a whole like dynamic of the teachers going on. There's another teacher, Melissa, who is just smitten with Ronan. He wants to keep her off his back. There's Ronan's assistant coach, Skeeter.
Who I just think is like delightfully like unaware of life.
I delightfully unaware.
And then there's Sonia, who likes to speak in a British accent randomly because she thinks she just likes to do it.
And like her and Nova become fast friends. And there was almost more drama from the teachers at this high school than there was from the kids at the high school. Like it was really funny. And I found myself laughing quite a bit throughout the whole book. Their conversations just cracked me up.
Well, and like there's a moment because Sonia kind of has a thing for Skeeter, and she's always had a thing because they actually went to high school. Like Nova, Skeeter, and Sonia went to high school together. Like Nova and Sonia, like she knew who she was, but they weren't friends in high school. But I mean, they come back. It's a whole thing. But so Sonia, like is like trying to like put herself out there with Skeeter, but he is delightfully like oblivious. And I just think he's adorable. And I loved him though.
And when it comes around, like people have to smack him upside the head. Like,
Uh-huh. He's like, I don't know what you're talking
dork.
about. That's the thing. He's a lovable dork. But then, so they catch feelings and then things kind of progress, but neither one of them really want to admit it. And definitely like Ronan doesn't want to. And he's kind of at a turning point because there are some things in the works that he wants, but they're not quite what he wants. But then there are some other things that happen, and I'm being super vague, and I'm sorry about that. But like, so things like are changing, and but as things are changing, the relationships that he's like really started to form in the school, and like Nova being there, and he's really starting to question if he wants to leave, like maybe Bluebell, Texas, right? Yeah, Bluebell,
Yep,
Texas is where he's supposed to be.
Well, and he builds a connection with the players and he takes care of them. He looks out for them. He mentors them. You know, he's everything that you want in a coach. So it makes it really hard. And him and Nova have this great, I mean, it's the chemistry you want from your hero and heroine. But they're both a little bit competitive. They're always challenging. Okay, like they're almost like betting each other, trying to one up each other. She kind of swindles him in a darts game.
Oh, she swindles him bad.
Yeah, it's so great. And I mean, that happens at numerous times throughout the books of just that playful connection.
Well, and I think one thing too is they challenge each other, like, but not in a bad way, but they challenge each other to be a better version of themselves. Like, because he's kind of been stuck like since everything happened. And yes, like after the original one night stand, he's like, I'm gonna make changes, I'm gonna like move forward, but he's still kind of stuck because he's making decisions based on the fact that like he never wants to put himself in the situation he was in 3 years or 3 years ago when his fiancée died. And Nova, like she's made decisions in her life where she's like, I don't want to be in that situation again. So like she also like she's moving forward and life is changing, but she's also kind of stuck. And I feel like they brought out the best parts of each other, and they needed that challenge and they needed that competition like between the two of them to like really see like where they were supposed to be and what they really needed.
Right. No, that's a great point, that they definitely kind of brought that out. And there's a little push and pull because they both are like, no, it can't, like, we can't go there. I can't think that way. But I really kind of like him. I really kind of like her. But they also help each other. I mean, when situations come up with Nova's ex, who's the other teacher, Andrew, he gets very protective of her and always checks in with her about, are you okay? You know, and he kind of steps in and helps as well to kind of deflect on situations. So, you know, there's just moments you see that they really care for each other.
They really do. And I think that really shows. And I haven't read an Ilsa Madden-Mills book for a little bit, but I was really happy that I picked this one up. Okay.
Yeah, it's been a while for me too, and I really enjoyed it.
Okay, so
she does small town really well, I think.
And I feel like every sports romance she does is like it's always football. She writes a good football because it's always like football light, which I like too.
Yeah.
Okay,
but there's still football.
So did you like this book?
I did. I enjoyed it. It was I I laughed a lot in this book. There were just a lot of great banter from all of the characters. There is this small town mayhem that just makes you smile and chuckle, and just there's a few awkward situations that can be super embarrassing. They're just funny.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I did too. This was, I mean, sometimes she writes like, she's never super angsty, but she writes good angst, but this was definitely a lower angst book. Like there's a little bit, but nothing like over the top, but it was a really good read. And it was just really well done. So who would typically like this book?
Let's see, who would typically like this book? I would say that if you're looking for sports light, this is definitely an opportunity. There was a little bit, I mean, it's not really one of the tropes, but kind of just that enemies to kind of lovers, because there's a little bit of bickering to it. I mean, it's not the main trope any way, shape, or form,
right?
But it had that kind of banter, playful banter back and forth. And so if you're looking for a fun read that's just low angst, I think this is one for it.
Yeah. And people who like a one night stand book, who like they go from one night stand to more, like, yes, they have one night stand and like time has passed and they've lived their lives like in that time, but it still works. And they get that second chance together that you weren't really expecting in a geeky Star Wars way.
And somebody who really wants kind of that small town feel. This is very Southern small town, and that plays into it. So if that's something that you really enjoy, then you would definitely enjoy this book.
Okay, so would you recommend this book?
I would. I would. It was a lot of fun.
I actually have already. Like I read the book, like, and I was like, "Oh, you should read this book. This one's very good."
Yeah, I would definitely recommend it. It was fun. It was playful. Like we talked about some of the geeky Star Wars kind of stuff in it. There was movie trivia. There was a lot of music in this too, because Nova and her sister sing together a lot.
Yeah, it was a theme kind of throughout.
And I actually, on some of the occasions, to kind of get like into the vibe of it, I had this, like I looked it up on Spotify and would have the song playing a little bit. It was fun. Okay, so do you have a book you think we should review for a quick shot of romance? If you do, send us an email at thebees@bookcaseandcoffee.com and we may just review the book that you want us to. But thank you, Carolina, so much for joining me on this quick shot of romance. Thanks, Leah. It's a lot of fun. Okay, and until next time, happy reading, everybody.
Find us on Instagram at buzzingaboutromance or on Twitter at buzzingromance. If you like the podcast, please leave a review. If you'd like to support us directly, join the Bookcase and Coffee Patreon and receive exclusive content only available to Patreon members. Check out bookcaseandcoffee.com for our on-the-shelf show notes.